Good morning to you, and thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday morning. I'm John Mayer.
And I'm Lily Taylor. John, we've talked about having quite a mild start to our morning.
Yeah.
Even a pretty mild week following some action this weekend.
Yeah, but comparatively, anything was going to be quieter.
Yeah.
That's the good news. And yeah, now we're starting to see what happens when you bring the clouds back in, and that really does help to make things kind of nice out there this morning.
Yeah.
A little soggy. Briana Chavez over in the Weather Center. A little soggy, a little bit of fog, a little bit of clouds. But hey, the warmer air, undeniable. We're feeling the difference.
Oh, yeah, we've been talking about it. You may not need as many layers this early morning, but you're definitely going to need to give yourself extra time for that morning commute, considering the visibility across the area really starting to trend into, well, less than a mile for some areas. I'm talking about Eugene specifically. We're looking at half a mile of visibility, and then you just go a couple miles to the north or a couple miles to the south, and it's looking like rather clear conditions, or you work your way into the coastline and we're at about a mile and a half. So lots of a mixed bag out the door throughout majority of our western valleys and the coastline. The warmer temperatures also managing to work their way on in, really up and down the I-5, anywhere between 5 to 10, if not into a near 15-degree warm up for most areas. So definitely going to continue to keep a close watch on those slightly warmer temperatures for some as we push past those mid 40s throughout this morning into upper and then 50s and slightly working our way into 60s ranges. Nonetheless, though, that sun definitely going to be called for quite the warm up in store for us out the door throughout the evening hours. We'll take a look at what you can expect heading into your Halloween celebration coming up in just a bit.
LSB Live is sponsored by Alpha Towing and Recovery.
I'll be looking forward to the rest of that forecast here coming up. Thanks for that, Briana. Well, of course, right now, though, we've got our live shot buddy who's out there on the roads. The fog absolutely going to be something that you see right away there on camera. Not to say that it's this sight for everyone, but it certainly is in Junction City over on Highway 99. At the same time, you do see those wet roads as well. Still a little bit in the way of those passing showers. Not exactly turning into a major mess when it comes to any of that active weather. Honestly, the fog probably the biggest issue for folks hitting the roads, and even that is a little touch and go. But the good news, no issues showing up on Trip Check, no big accidents or delays that'll slow you down, but we will be keeping track. As soon as anything develops, we'll be sure to bring it to you first right here this morning.
A developing story this morning. We received confirmation from PeaceHealth just last night that it's cutting its workforce by 2.5% across Oregon, Washington, and Alaska.
And that includes layoffs at Riverbend Hospital in Springfield, though PeaceHealth saying most of the impacted positions would be non-clinical administrative roles in shared services. That's actually based out of Washington in Vancouver. Now, PeaceHealth did send us a statement regarding all of this, saying in part, quote, after extensive analysis and careful consideration, PeaceHealth has made the difficult decision to reduce the workforce by 2.5%, including eliminating select caregiver roles, closing some open positions, and making other organizational adjustments. This decision was not made lightly. It reflects the ongoing need to transform and modernize our operations in response to the rapidly changing healthcare landscape, one that has challenged even most resilient healthcare organizations. End quote.
There's new pressure on lawmakers to end the government shutdown as the second longest closure on record drags on. National correspondent Matt Galka has the latest from D.C.
Air traffic controllers were set to miss their first full paychecks of the government shutdown as it dragged on into week 4. They spent Tuesday handing out flyers to travelers on how the shutdown impacts staffing and safety.
Low staffing, unreliable equipment, and then you strip away their pay and say continue going to your job every day and move 3 million passengers and 45,000 flights. It's completely unacceptable. The frustration level is at an all-time high. The anger is at level 10.
Let's have a bill that pays them for the work they do. And Democrats said no to that.
It's another pressure point on lawmakers who haven't shown a willingness to budge. Democrats are still holding out for guarantees on health care subsidies. Republicans want a clean funding bill that reopens the government without additional spending. The country's largest federal workers union called on Democrats to do what they have said they would not: vote with Republicans for their bill to reopen the government. Democrats didn't seem swayed. The Senate took a 13th vote on the clean funding bill Tuesday. That failed again.
Americans know when it comes to health care, when Republicans say later, they mean never.
Food banks are bracing for the worst as more than 40 million Americans could see their SNAP benefits frozen on November 1st because of the shutdown. Vice President J.D. Vance met with Republicans Tuesday as the GOP maintains there's not much else they can do to get Democrats to come to the table, including getting President Trump involved.
The president tried his best to negotiate with the Democrat leaders. They effectively gave him the middle finger in the Oval Office. So he said he did his best.
Democrats have already blocked attempts to provide pay to essential federal workers, including air traffic controllers and the military, instead opting to support a bill that pays all federal workers. Now, Republicans are reportedly backing a plan to do just that, which could put even more pressure on Democrats to come to the table. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Now, with the loss of SNAP benefits looming, there is growing concern over the potential of food insecurity growing. Oregon, one of 20 states that is now suing the Trump administration regarding SNAP funds. Now, Oregon, alongside Washington and California, looking for the Trump administration to dig into a federal savings account to try to keep benefits going. The group saying that the government could use another pot of money that sees more than $20 billion in it. In last week's memo announcing the suspension of benefits, though, the Department of Agriculture saying they could not legally use those contingency funds to keep the program funded. It says that the other $23 billion is being used by other programs. Now, we're also continuing our coverage on the pending troop deployments in Portland. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals announcing that the full 11-judge panel will now be deciding on whether to allow the National Guard to be deployed to the city.
For now, this means the Guard still cannot be deployed into Portland. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, who had sued for this ruling, releasing a statement following the announcement, saying, quote, "The court is sending a clear message. The president cannot send the military into U.S. cities unnecessarily. We will continue defending Oregon's laws, values, and sovereignty as this case moves forward and our fight continues in the courts."
Now, you may recall all of this legal battle actually began roughly a month ago. That was when President Trump announced the deployment of the National Guard into the city of Portland. On his Truth social media account, the president said Portland was, quote, war ravaged, and he authorized, quote, full force when it comes to defending ICE facilities that are under attack by Antifa. Since then, the federal government has been arguing the federal officers at the ICE facility in southern Portland are under attack, whereas the city of Portland and the state of Oregon arguing that Portland police officers have the situation under control. A few weeks ago, a federal judge siding with the city of Portland and the state of Oregon, ruling that there would be the need for a temporary restraining order, in other words, a pause on the deployment of the guards. Now, the earlier Ninth Circuit ruling overturned that decision. Yesterday's decision means that another ruling could come into play and could ultimately tip the balance in favor of either the president or the state. Now, later today, the president's authority to deploy a state's National Guard officially going to trial. Oregon arguing that it would be unlawful, while the president argues he can do so when it's needed to enforce the law.